Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IT Live. I'm Texas Homer, and I'm joined by Ian Boyd, and we're going to talk about Texas Longhorns football, specifically Sark's run game in the future, what that means for who they're after in the portal and who they've already landed. And then we'll do the same for the Muschamp side of the ball. Head over to Inside Texas, though. You can get 50% off right now for the Ultimate Fan Bundle. That's Inside Texas, On3, and Rivals all together. We would love to see you over there. Take advantage of it. All righty, Ian. Let's do run game first, brother.
Yep.
All righty. So first things, you open up talking about basically explosivity in Sark's offense, why Sark likes it, all of that. And you focus on two targets. Isaac Brown, previous target, stays at Louisville. And then Raleek Brown should be on a visit today. So what does that mean? Why are they looking at those guys?
For reasons that you yourself elucidated recently on one of our shows together, which is that when Texas, the nature of their run game, when the pass game is working the way they want, they've got threats on both perimeter, and you're just worried about Sark throwing a deep bomb at any given moment that'll kill you on that drive, then you end up spreading out and creating lanes in the run game that the offensive line just has to maintain. They don't even have to create holes by driving people. They just need to get to a spot and be an obstacle, and there's going to be a lane for the running back. And then the debate is, when you've created that lane with spread spacing and run pass conflict and big screening offensive linemen, who do you want running through that hole? Do you want the big power back going for steady gains, or do you want the explosive gain? And to your point, Sark agrees with you, apparently. He's like, I don't want to lose explosiveness if the other team is sitting back in coverage. If they're sitting back in coverage, I just want to be hitting them with explosive plays in the run game. So I want my Reggie Bush and I want my Lindell White.
Yeah.
So I've become accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
Standard of living.
Yeah. But he wants to have that Reggie Bush type to blow up.
Yeah, and I think you ultimately need both, right? You'll talk about it later. But the Thunder and Lightning, I mean, I still want the Thunder. It's just the Lightning will be nice because there are 3 or 4 times every game that we would harp on of man, the C split. If we just had the back that had that extra gear, you could pick up 40 here, but instead we pick up 9. And so it's that thing that I think has been missing from the offense. And so to be able to get it back, and it's not my favorite thing. I like success rate backs, but I've been molded into just trying to see what Sark has done previously and match backs to that versus just kind of how I personally feel about it. But Raleek Brown can offer that. Isaac Brown, of course, was top, but Raleek Brown has that speed. He has that outside ability. He does some cool stuff. He has some really intense cut ability. He can hurdle. He can do all of that fun stuff. Shorter back at 5'9". Yeah, you have him listed. 5'9", 195. He's in that world of Jaden Bluish in threat. And he got a lot of pass game stuff from Arizona State. So he just has that outside ability to pick up yards if need be. Joe thinks it's more like a Keelan or something like that. But my point is, I'm just trying to say a back that can pick up the yards available.
I don't like Keelan as a comp because Keelan didn't really run between the tackles.
Yep.
He was really more of just a gadget back. I don't love the Jaden Blue comp either because I feel like Jaden Blue would run really fast at the predetermined hole, and if it was open, he would score. And if it wasn't, then it was probably not going to be that big a play.
Yeah, it's very simplistic. I'm basically just saying fast running back.
Raleek is an actual running back. He knows how to find and create lanes between the tackles, and then he's got acceleration to make you pay when the Red Sea parts it does often in this offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you pair him with somebody else with a little bit more power, like traditional running back trait, old school trait. Then you have Brown, mystery running back, and then Christian Clark. So now you have an interesting room that has a wide profile to be able to use certain traits in certain situations. Then you go in here. So you talk about, the ability to pick up chunks between the 20s. Then you go into Masunas. Here, let's talk Raleek and Reggie. You kind of hit on it, but just the dichotomy here of Lindell White and Reggie Bush, Sark former players.
When Sark ran the ball with Lindell White, they usually used a fullback and a tight end. One of those guys got killed by was it Cedric Griffin? It's put his helmet on one of their chins in that 2006 Rose Bowl and knocked him out on the sideline. I think it was the fullback. It doesn't really matter. He had the power approach, and then they would also get into 3 wide with Reggie Bush, and they would actually put Reggie Bush. I was looking back at it the other day writing this article. He lined up deep, really deep, under center. That not going to see that replicated, although that was kind of important for Raleek Brown at Arizona State. So maybe we can get into that a little bit. And then he would just get a running start into basic inside zone. And they were already working on the large human theory back then, because they had traditional tackles. The center was a smaller, quick white guy, Ryan Khalil, who was a longtime pro. The right guard was a DJ Campbell type Islander guy, Fred Matua. But then the left guard, Deuce Latui, was 6'6", 365 pounds. And he was the classic large human guy. Like many large humans, he wasn't really driving people down the field. He would single a guy up, turn his shoulder, and then if the guy tried to move, then he would use his momentum to shove him even further in that direction. And so they were screening guys. They were spreading them out with Steve Smith and Dwayne Jarrett. These names maybe don't mean anything to our younger YouTube audience. Matt Leinart. And then Reggie Bush would just fly through the creases that they created from that spread concept.
Explain that more in depth, because people think big humans, these are going to be grinders, right? They're going to use this size to maul people. Explain that that's actually a counterintuitive thing, that the bigger you are and is actually the worse you'll likely be at actual mauling.
If you want to maul people, you actually want often shorter, faster offensive linemen. If you get big offensive linemen, it's not to drive people off the ball. It's to block them from getting where you want them to go. And that's counterintuitive, but there's 2 basic principles. One is low man wins. If you want to get under somebody's pads and drive them back, you need to get under them. And it's hard to get under somebody if you're 6'6", and you're in a 3-point stance or a 2-point stance at guard. You can really see this really well with me sitting in this chair, right? And then he's got both hands in the dirt, and he's already naturally lower than you. And he's a defensive tackle, and he's faster than you, and he's
more of an athlete.
More of an athlete. To get under his pads is really tough. You're generally more just absorbing his energy, and then guiding him is how big guys do it. And even the smaller guys do it that way to an extent. The real proof of this is if you go to the service academies where they have fitness restrictions and the fact that military requirements for all their cadets means that they're not selecting for an NFL talent pool, right?
Right.
Generally, they've recently passed some things that can allow guys to do the NFL for a bit before they serve, but they have limitations. And what is their recourse? What is their strategy on offense, Connor?
Run the ball.
Run the dang ball. Or up here, local, formerly rural, increasingly suburban Liberty Hill runs the slot T. Why do they run the slot T? Why do they run the ball every play?
Because they don't have the size advantage.
Because they don't have the size advantage. But you don't need the size advantage if you've got dudes that are scrappy and can get low and drive people. If you also similarly, if you go watch those 90s Nebraska teams where they were mauling people, yes, they were doing steroids and they were doing performance drugs allegedly more effectively than everybody else was yet. But they were also like, literally, they would play like 6'2", 300-pound local Nebraska kids that would in no way was their offensive line like a blue chip line. If you look at where they came from, it's impossible that those would have been the best athletes in the country if you were ranking everybody in the 90s. Run game is power and athleticism and leverage. Large humans are for pass protection and absorbing.
Yeah, and in pass protection, if you just think about it logistically, it takes longer to run around a 6'6", 360-pound guy than it does a shorter little guy. So it's also just there's a speed bump element to this at times.
That length is huge too. Like length is of limited value when you're run blocking, because you're not going to do that much damage with your forearm.
No.
The shorter guys regularly get over it because they're getting into the guy's body and then using their hands. So
whenever you see boxing, right? Whenever someone does have the striking advantage, what is the shorter boxer going to do? He's going to work. He's going to close the distance and fight him in his chest.
Yeah, it's where length comes in is when you're
length is whenever you're agreeing to play at this length.
Yes. When you're trying to maintain distance, and you don't want to maintain distance when you're run blocking.
Yeah.
You're trying to get on him. So yeah, the length and the size that makes you hard to get around, and the athleticism going backwards, the skill going backwards, these are all traits that apply to pass blocking. There are ways to be an amazing run blocker when you're enormous, like Deuce Latui, but they're not getting under somebody and putting them, throwing them over the fence like in the blind side. The reason he throws the kid over the fence on the blind side is not just because he's massive, it's because he's powerful.
That's why I like shorter noses now. Like that's why Byron Murphy, I was like, this is like the Aaron Donald. Like these shorter noses too can get under these offensive linemen as well. All right, so we get the Thunder and Lightning of Lindell. Lindell was more in a heavy set, situational. We're going to be powerful. Reggie Bush is we're going to spread it out, and we're going to get you that way. So we've seen this variation with Sark in its purest form, actually at USC. Oh, sorry, my screen glitched out for a second. But what about the pieces we have returning here? What's your point with these guys in the explosivity game?
They need the deep threat. It's the most important piece of the run game every year. I've said this and explained it a million times. They have to have that one way or the other. You have to go get Cam Coleman, or you have to go get somebody else, or you have to develop Ryan Wingo or Khalil Lockett. Something has to happen there. But otherwise, the pieces in the pass game are exemplary. Like they need maybe 3 offensive linemen in the portal to fill out the interior with reliable pass blockers. But I know that's what everybody's stressing right now. It's not really that hard. Texas made it look hard last year. It's not that hard. Like it's even possible that they could do it with like only 0 to 1 transfer guys if they just like got Nick Brooks up a level and got Connor Robertson back and then got like Chapman or Kibble up to a respectable level.
Kibble's gone.
What?
Kibble's gone.
Kibble's gone? Okay.
Yep.
Chapman, then you could go.
Well, here's the problem. So Cruz is gone. Kibble's gone. If Robertson doesn't return, now like we're losing depth at a pretty remarkable rate.
So you still have Kojo and Chapman and Brooks.
Yeah.
Like if they actually all developed this offseason, they could still be fine. That's I would say go get 3 or 4 guys, right? That's what we've said all along. I'm just saying the bar there is not as high as people have this are developing these nerves about that situation. And it's like it's not don't worry so much about it.
Is it
Interior
similar
line,
to running? Is it similar to running back that like even an average running back room would significantly have upgraded last year? Is that kind of your thinking? Just
yeah.
like core, like base competency.
As long as Clark stays healthy, they're already like twice as good at running back next year as they
Right.
were.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is like losing Boss sucks, Brown sucks, but even before we went through all the portal talk, it was just like, guys, if we just had a league average run game last year, it would look a lot different. There's some of that about the offensive line where it was just so bad that if you got to just middle of the road, you would feel a lot better. What do y'all think of Cruz hitting the portal?
Whatever.
I was excited about him out of high school, but just, from like behind the scenes stuff, I just heard that the light was never really coming on for him. And I would ask about him. Hey, what's going on with Cruz? What's going on? Because I liked him out of high school, but I think, Eric said that Jackson Christian on scout team was making a lot more noise than Cruz. For whatever reason, he just never really got in the mix or showed what he needed to show to advance, which is a shame because I agree with a lot of y'all out of high school. It was all good.
Yeah, you don't need I'm never going to get like super fixated about particular running backs or particular interior offensive linemen. Those are running backs. You need athletes, but generally only special athletes apply anyway for the job. And that inside line is all about your development process.
Yeah, really, but I worry about that process. So it's like,
yeah, but we're just outsourcing it.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter.
You don't need all Americans there.
Texas. So Texas, to get back, Texas is returning the pieces to set up the run game if they have the deep threat. Arch Manning next year with a deep threat that actually is getting open on these deep vertical concepts, and then occasionally adding an additional threat with his legs. Those two things are enormous stressors, enormous. Like whenever we do the deep dive this week and we get into that long touchdown run he had against Michigan, Arch is kind of a freak.
He's the highest miles per hour out of any college running quarterback, which is wild.
He's a very special player. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you're
just get out of his way.
When you're in the spread, he's going to create all this stress and all these problems for defenses. Whoever plays running back for Texas next year, people are going to be like, oh, this guy's a god of war. And he may or may not be.
Yeah.
So long as you get the pass game to a sufficient threat level, whoever plays running back is going to be like just a kid in the candy shop.
Before we hit the heavier versions of these packages that Sark wants to apply, let's hear a very quick word from Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Fast one.
Same day delivery powered by DoorDash.
Fun can't lose.
Let's hit a comment real quick.
What would you like, Ian?
That Bruce V7.
Ideally, big and small, scatter early, mix in a pounder, first downs, wear down defenses late. Deontay Foreman was a fine late game pounder.
There's so many points in here that are worth discussing. First of all, explosiveness at running back so that you can get points on the game early, and then power to like hammer defenses late is absolutely like the all-time winning formula. Secondly, it's not so much so you can wear them down late. It's so that you can control the game and control the ball when they are desperately trying to get possessions to overcome a deficit. When acquiring as many possessions as possible becomes the priority for the defense, and then you have a guy that can run through an 8-man front and still allow you to like move the ball and maybe kick a field goal, maybe punt, but after eating up 4 minutes, 7 minutes of clock, whatever, very, very valuable. Deontay Foreman played in the 1 year that Texas ran the veer and shoot. And Deontay Foreman would run from wide open spread sets with Shane Buechele reading RPOs on every play almost. So Deontay Foreman actually was thriving in a pass-first concept where Texas was forcing the defense to get wide and then just running through holes when they would get a light box. They would do that, or they would get into 12 personnel so that they could just run the ball no matter what. And they had a converted defensive end, Caleb Blewett at tight end, who was a mauler. I don't know why Sark hasn't ever looked into that, or why more people don't look into that. And so it was Deontay Foreman was a really good running back, but he is wildly overrated based on his stats because he actually had this like ideal running context to operate in. If you like look at the Baylor guys when they were running that offense, they had guys running for 1,000 yards every year, and I could rattle off some of their names, and most of y'all would just stare at me with blank. Like, who were you talking? Shock Linwood? What? Who? His name was Shock, and I don't remember him. Feel like I would remember a 1,000-yard back named Shock. No, you don't, because it was all the scheme.
Well, what's Paul's rule? You evaluate running backs based on what they add to a system, not what they benefit from it.
There's too many rules. Even I got.
Oh yeah, he dropped 30 rules. I was like, Paul, am I supposed to remember 30 rules before I make a comment on the portal? And I told him, I know you only had 29, but 30 looks a lot better. But just that base rule, right? Like fans can really struggle with running backs that are benefiting from a good ecosystem and think the back is the driver of that success when generally they're the recipient. Now, sometimes there's special backs that are actually overcoming the system or the situation that they're in, but most backs are a product of the offensive line and the scheme. And some are not. And those that are not get drafted real high generally, if you're smart.
2021 Bijan is one of the only guys I've ever seen that had a great year. And it was like a lot of the time he's doing it all himself almost.
Yeah.
He would like make guys miss in the backfield all the time.
Yeah, I told you we kept leading the league in missed tackles forced, and fans would be super excited about it. And I was like, it's good, but you don't want to be the back that has had to make that many tackles miss because it means that the offensive line is not helping you at all. And it would be him and Rojo both like at the top of the leagues in that. Okay, so we talked about the spread game, how to get that with Arch, but what if? And I think you hit on it. But Sark's perfect game in a perfect world is Sark gets up 17 and then he just runs the ball for the rest of the game. And if Sark can beat you 31-24 or 31-21, like that's his chef's kiss version of football. And so having both of these styles allows Sark to play that style, which, we kind of saw it in Alabama, saw it versus Arkansas last year where they can go into these 4-minute drill, run the ball out. That's what Sark wants to do. But you need both of these kind of competing styles to do it. So we pick up a tight end, Ian. We did a commit video on him, but give us a little summary about the addition here.
He is a great blocker. Texas has just added their power run dimension, their wear out the defense, run out the clock. That's all Masunis. Masunis is what gives you that, especially when they play 12 personnel, because Nick Townsend is a great move blocker. If you line him up just off the line of scrimmage, so he can like go back and trap a defensive end or lead on a defensive back, or he can lead inside on a linebacker. Nick Townsend is like all about it. He loves popping guys. He's extremely fast. So when he gets a head start, he'll actually use it and run through the contact. And I am very excited that they got this huge. He's like Masunis is like a miniature offensive lineman that can catch.
Yeah.
And with him on the line now, you can get into 12 personnel and basically use Townsend as a fullback. They should be watching Kyle Juszczyk film all offseason, because if you watch San Francisco this year and all the stuff they do with their fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, it's wild. He's like constantly moving. You never know where he's inserting. Anyway, maybe we'll get into that this offseason. But Townsend is like a glorified fullback, and Masunas extending the surface is going to be really formidable in the run game. And whoever, even if your offensive linemen are all pass blockers that are kind of like engage a guy and then try to keep him from getting to the running back and kind of playing footsie, even if those are your linemen and it's like all Hayden Connors and you're not getting a ton of push, you're going to get push at the point of attack because of Masunas and Townsend. So wherever they're inserting in those places, you're going to be pushing people off the ball.
And you're just adding another gap, which increases the chance that the defense misfits something.
You also, a lot of times those 12 personnel sets are good for creating explosive gains, because especially like if you're like in a late game scenario and you're like, it's time to run out the clock, and the defense is like, we got to get the offense off the field because we need more possessions because we're down 10. So we need 2 or 3 possessions, and the offense is just trying to run out the clock. So let's load the box. Okay. Texas plays with Townsend and Masunas. They're creating all these gaps. You're like, we got to load the box. So you're putting like almost everyone within like 8 yards of the line of scrimmage. And then if you make a mistake, all of a sudden the running back is behind you.
Yep.
So you can often get big explosive plays when you play with bigger personnel packages, because you get the defense in kind of all or nothing mode.
And modern football is played so much in the like 11 personnel spread world. They just don't, defenses in general don't have as many reps against 12 personnel. So you just get the benefit that it's less practiced by defenses than 11 personnel spread.
I learned this lesson in a hilarious way. I was like a sophomore in college, and my brother was in band at Cedar Park High School. And I went back and watched Cedar Park versus Leander, like end of year rivalry game. And Leander had this coach's son who would play middle safety and occasionally quarterback or running back named Blake Gideon. And Leander was just like running zone read every play, and Cedar Park was in this like too high defense. And every play would be like 5 to 10 yards automatically for Leander. And I started yelling from the stands, and I was like, scoot up your safeties. You're dying. You're going to lose this game. Scoot up your safeties. Finally, Cedar Park gets desperate enough. They scoot the safeties way up. Blake Gideon makes somebody miss a tackle, and then he's gone 80 yards for a touchdown. And I was like, never mind. I understand now.
Yeah, collapsing the level of your defenses, it looks cool, it looks aggressive. If you make one mistake, they are going to house it. And that's why collapsing gaps with linebackers defeats the point of having a second level. Bringing your safeties way up or staying in a one high tight defeats the whole point of having a third level. So hey, if you're super athletic and you're sound, it's a great defense. It'll smother them. But if you miss a gap, they're gonna go.
Yeah, and people are like, Gideon is so slow. Why did we get this guy? And I was like, I saw him in person, and I know that he wasn't playing like DeSoto, but he looked pretty fast. It doesn't seem like he's slow.
So we got Christian Clark here. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit and then lose the thing as I always do. It never fails, dude. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, we get a motion. We're getting a man read.
Well, outside zone, so.
Yeah. And then, oh no, it's doing this annoying thing where it won't freeze. Well, guess what, guys? Christian Clark is going to run for a touchdown right here. So just imagine something very beautiful like that occurring. And, but what did you want to show about this play? Just how quick he can burst through.
He's a good plant and go runner.
Yeah.
He's got some wiggle too. I was very impressed with him. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is the guy that we like imagined.
That was the guy out of high school that we were like, okay, he
has all the skills to become this guy in the future. That's like sort of like a Bijan Robinson light.
Yeah.
And then we got like Madden control glitch Bijan for a year and a half until this game.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about Clark? You say he's not a Jaden Ball. Farewell, Jaden. Have fun with the Gators. That was fun while it lasted, brother.
Hey, at least now they don't have to spend $1 million on that.
Yeah. There was some. It was tough with Baugh, right? Like it was. Well, do you need 2 backs? But then they started saying Jaden Baugh plus another back. Then I was good. I just get worried anytime you would overspend for any singular player, and God forbid something happens there. So
I feel a lot better about returning Clark and Clark actually being good and then adding one other guy than I did about trying to be like all in on Jaden Baugh is the solution. I feel I'm not at all worried about running back anymore.
Yeah. And people keep pointing out Clark hasn't signed. Yeah. Well, we're just going with what we know.
Y'all think Clark is leaving?
There's been talk that he's not signed, so it's that hits.
I hate this deal.
Like the new world of football is very annoying.
I also hate the reporting on it where it's like, guys, guess what? We have huge news. Click. And then you click, and then it's like Arch Manning
is coming back, baby.
Or it's like something that it was never even would worry about, you know?
Yeah, but I don't know with the running
behind the scenes. There was a moment in negotiations where the 2 numbers were different, and you just didn't know about it. It's like I don't need to know about it. Like,
yeah, it is kind of frustrating. I mean, you still in this modern world, you do just unfortunately want to see them. You need to see their Twitter post. You need to see their you need to see their graphic.
I don't need to know that John Mateer is coming back.
Yeah,
I knew that in like September, you know.
Yeah, well, if it's between the NFL and a team, it's very obvious if they should go to the NFL. But when it's like the question is like, are they going to re-sign in portal? Then I'm more aware of it because it's such a strange world now. And so, yeah, there's absolutely a chance that can happen. But we're just going to talk about the team as we have them right now, or else we'll just have to wait 3 weeks before we can talk about Texas' future run game. All right, we got Masunis. We talked about Nick. Can you explain too? You talked about Nick as the H-back or the move tight end, and he can generate. People see that play from A&M where he gets the ball and runs, and they're like, "Well, he's a receiving tight end." Explain why you're not 100% all in that he's a receiving tight end. What does he need to do to become a receiving tight end?
I mean, in the long term, it'd be awesome if he could run routes and like run option routes where he can read the leverage of the defender and then break open with the right timing and the right footwork. I've noticed on this topic that people just say like, oh, Nick Townsend is a really fast tight end. Therefore, obviously, he's a weapon in the pass game. And he is, but he's not a weapon in the pass game like a receiver. Because the skill to run route in the right spots against the right leverage with the right footwork, it's actually more complicated than you would think. So just being fast, you're not just going to go flex out wide and then run by people all the time. Like that's not really how it works. What they can do with him is they can release him off fake blocks, and then he will absolutely run by people. Mike Masunis might run by some people if he fakes a block first, right?
Yeah.
Townsend absolutely will run by people when it's off a fake block. Sark has all these tight end screens that are deadly too, where he's like kind of releases and then waits on the backside for offensive linemen to pile up. Some of those tight end screens where you throw it and it's like a tunnel screen, but to the tight end.
Yeah.
Those can be devastating when the tight end is remotely athletic because it just hits defense so unexpectedly. They're not looking for it. If you go back to like the 2012 Alamo Bowl against Oregon State, that game would be like Alex Okafor sack, Oregon State tight end screen for 15 yards, Alex Okafor sack. It was like, they were like not super skilled NFL guys. He's going to be good at that. He's going to be good at leak plays. And then they're going to hopefully get him on like arrow route, flat routes, where he's like slides across like he's going to just whack the crap out of the defensive end, but then instead he releases into the flat for the quarterback.
Slice routes.
And he just turns around, you know. all that stuff, Townsend could be very effective next year, and he could have some games where he puts up some real yardage and some touchdowns. But I think he's years away from being
line up in the slot, no motion. I'm gonna beat you on a route,
or like killing you in the seam or whatever. I mean, if he just like takes.
I mean, some of the seam stuff I'm actually okay with because that's just run up the seam and catch. I think he can do that. It's just anytime it goes into the more, I don't know, break on the ball, take these steps at 10 yards and then do X, just takes more time to learn. But I could see him easily just kind of going up the seam because that's just a simplified route. Someone mentioned Shipley. Yeah, prayers for Shipley, man. Scary stuff. Thinking about him, dude. Hope he's all right. And then whatever the recovery with burns and stuff is pretty brutal process. So definitely.
So it kind of reminded me of that terrible Jeremy Renner deal. We were like out somewhere kind of remote and something happens. And
yeah, man. Out on the ranch and I have a lot of family that has land and man, you can get a little isolated out there, or you're just far away from any type of like real medical resource. Even if you get found, it's still going to take you an hour to get to a hospital, but he got care flighted. So luckily they were able to do that, but man, scary stuff. All right. Next up, we're going to talk Muschamp's defensive portal pieces. But before we do such a thing, let's hear a word from David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
And what do you think about the Washington quarterback signing and then immediately trying to dip back out? It's just a way to talk about the world. And then UW saying that, hey, you just signed a contract. We're going to legally enforce it. And so now let's get courts involved. What do you think of this brave new world we're in?
I'm all for contracts and for players and agents that try to renege on contracts, or universities getting slammed and taken to the cleaners.
Yeah, it was a different world for me. Like whenever the players were just like being exploited in the past, but you weren't exploited. You got to sign a contract. You made an agreement. You weren't forced to do so. So you entered into an agreement of sound mind with an agent, with a representative that understands these things, right? You weren't taken advantage of. So once you sign at that point, man, it's not about player rights. It's about following through with your word. I get it in the past when they were taking advantage, but this is not a situation of taking advantage. And UW, from what I've seen, paid good money for it. So it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you enforce a contract at that point? It's going to be, we're going to see like, what is this? Does this involve NCAA, or does this just go actually into like tort law, And because if it's that, they're going to be like, yeah, you have to do your contract. But I don't know if it has cascading effects on the NCAA is all just in our minds and not real in the world.
I want contracts that create leverage for the universities and the coaching staffs again. So I want the players to be able to get paid, and then I want coaches to be able to write things into the contract like, if you skip meetings, you get fined. If you get in trouble, we're going to the contract is voided, or things like that. That reinstitute discipline that's been slipping away because the players have too much leverage now.
Yeah.
I want the players to be compensated fairly, but the way that football works, you need more leverage for the university and the coaches to tell the players what to do, and then the players to have to say, yes, sir. The game does not work very well if you don't have that yes, sir dimension. Because you have 11 guys on the field, and you have to tell people this is your job and you need to do it or we don't advance the ball. So,
well, and the NFL has it, and the NFL has it for coaches, right? There's morality clauses in the coaches. You have to meet the expectations of the job. If you read a coaching contract, you'll see all these tenets of like, you have to be available for major university events, and you have to basically, you need to have all the extra mile stuff too. It's not just coaching. So yeah, to have it in a contract of part of your job is to be at meetings in preparation for a game. Sure, why not? But you do need the structure of top down for that organization, and generally most organizations. But coaches have it on their side too. If you read a coaching contract, you need to be at XYZ. You need to, and they'll say things like that it's in legal language, like this is not a normal job. It's not a 9 to 5. You need to basically be 24 hours on call. So that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm sure. But if you sign the contract and it was a fair contract and you willingly entered into it and you had representation to understand said contract, then of course, why wouldn't you enforce it? But we'll see if it somehow ends up in a court and they're just like, this doesn't exist. This is all legal fiction, which it easily could be.
There needs to be a balance. I think right now universities are a little less likely to be cheating things because they're more liable, and you can like FOIA them or whatever if they renege on something. They could have reneged on something in the past and it was all like under the table, but now that it's more above board, then the universities they have to be a little more on it. That you need something to control some of these agents right now.
Well, they need an accreditation process, just like every other league, too.
Even some of the accredited.
I know even the legit one, but you need to first off make sure you're dealing with legit ones, because then you can control it better at that point. But when you're just dealing with a random friend here and friend of a buddy here, then these guys they're not even speaking a common language at that point. At least these accredited guys are in the same world of thought.
It's just such a money grab right now. Some of these agents are just absolutely slaving away to get bags for themselves, and
just the percentages they're getting are abhorrent. And agents can get anywhere from, it doesn't matter if it's sports or film or whatever, anywhere from 3 to 10. You can kind of see that some of these agents are getting like 30% deals in perpetuity and just like insane levels of theft. And I get it, man, but really the good ones, it's a tough job, but it's not that tough. If I sign a good player, I just have to go contact 6 schools with money, and then we write a contract. It's not that crazy. So it's to get 30% to contact Alabama, who will answer the phone because you have said player. It's not that crazy. Oh, that was good work, Ian. All right, Muschamp. So you wrote this, I think, 2 days ago. So some of these names have came off the board, but he's just kind of rehashing things that we were looking at. First things first, we do land Gaffrard from Arkansas. Big, 6'6", 389-pound Arkansas nose tackle. Ian, what does taking that body type mean? The players they take are clues, right, to what Muschamp wants in the scheme. So why someone that big? We don't necessarily have that on the roster, minus like a younger guy in Sharma.
Yeah, they want I think Canoe actually can do it. I think Canoe has done some two gapping. They want two gappers. That's the big thing. You can use two gappers a few different ways. If you watch Oregon this year, they'll play this thing called a heads front, where both tackles are heads up on the guards and both tackles are two gapping on every play. That was in the Georgia playbook too. So it is possible that Texas could run that next year, but I don't know. I don't think that really, not a high enough percentage of their defensive tackles fit that mold. So it's like Sark Muschamp is trying to get two gapping guys. He's made a priority of getting Gaffrard. And then also they're aiming for Zion Williams. Williams or Williamson?
Williams.
Okay. There's that also enormous dude that plays for the Pelicans.
Yeah, not the basketball player.
Yeah, those are really hard for me to.
Even though he might be big enough at this point. But
Yeah.
why very layman's view, why two gap? What does that do to the structure of the deep? What does it allow you to do if someone two gaps?
When you two gap up front, you free up the linebackers to essentially two gap as well. They can be a little more wait and see. They can stack behind them and then fit multiple gaps based on where the ball goes. And then that has the additional downstream effect where your safeties don't have to commit as fast to the run. And so it just keeps going down the line to where everybody can hang back in coverage and not overcommit to the run. And you can still make it really hard for the offense to run the ball. Not only that, but as Kirby Smart it was explaining in this one clinic that you sent me over the holidays, when your guys can all hang back, not only can you be really good at run defense if you're good at two gapping, but you can also be really good at never allowing big runs. Because you don't have that Blake Gideon versus Cedar Park effect I was explaining with that last article, where everybody comes up in order to stop the run, and then somebody makes a mistake, and all of a sudden the ball is behind everybody and you're chasing from behind. Everybody can keep the ball in front of them if you are two gapping. That's it in a nutshell.
What team did Kirby Smart show as an example of teams that collapse and then give up explosives?
His example was Clemson, which at that time was coached by one Brent Venables.
Yeah.
That's another thing with like a Raleek Brown or a speed back that I didn't think about until this moment, is that Sark has already been really good at kind of creasing Venables' defenses in the run game and even hitting them with explosive gains. And he's been doing it without very fast running backs most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just funny. He was talking about there's defenses that play like this, like Venables, but they're going to give up explosives. And then there's our style where you might get 2 or 3 yards, but you're not going to get 20. And so you'll give up a little bit to not give up a lot. Venables is either like you're going for -3 or 30. And that style's a little bit different. So you've been real excited, man. Defensive backfield, we add Bo Masco. I watched his all-22 from the Penn State game, and he was out on an island a lot. And they played a lot of man. I don't know about overall, but they played a lot of man in that game for sure. And he was just running around, man, and making good coverage. He had one where because of the man, they were running so many pick routes on Rutgers. I wanted to scream at Rutgers, like, quit running man, dude. They're beating you by scheme right now. But he crossed the whole field and had a PBU after getting picked off and getting through the second level. So I thought he did a really good job. So I like the Masco addition as a real cover corner. What do you think, man?
He's awesome. I watched him versus Ohio State, obvious reasons.
That was one of his best games. I'll cut like PFF because that's the only way I can quantify what his worst grade game was. I'll go to their worst game first off. And if I see that I like them in their worst game, then I'm like, all right, cool.
What was his worst game on PFF? Penn State?
But his like second best game was Ohio State. Because you also get worried too. Like you'll see this with some players, like they'll have a really good grade, but when you sort by team they played, it's in direct correlation to their best games were non-conference versus nobodies, and then their grades are really bad versus better teams. But that wasn't the case with Bo. But that's why I always just go and check that to make sure, because sometimes it can be a mirage, but it wasn't in this case.
Nelson tells us Ohio State didn't have Jeremiah Smith. Okay. Yeah. Well, that diminishes it. But yeah. I pulled up that game because I noticed he had like 9 tackles against Ohio State. And 9 tackles at cornerback is not necessarily a great sign, because that means they're throwing it at you a lot.
Yeah. So
I was like, okay, am I going to go find that he's just like playing off and having to tackle Tate or Smith in space a million times? But what it actually was that he would mix press man and cover 2. And he played a lot of cover 2 in that game. And so he would like show press, jam up his guy, but then stay flat. And then Ohio State kept running like crossers underneath, and he would go up and make the tackle. He was a good enough tackler in that game, and he even put his helmet on the ball once and knocked it out of a tight end's hand at one point. He was a good enough tackler that I was like, I think he could actually play nickel if they wanted him to. But He's probably too good overall to use at nickel. So you just keep him out at corner.
Yeah. And filling in this defensive backfield, you got to take, man. You got to take about the secondary for Texas. Or is it a shareable take? Are you workshopping it?
It's shareable. I'm going to
Okay.
write it tomorrow. It's being written for tomorrow. I think Texas could potentially have the best secondary in the country next year. And when Texas does that, Texas has great years. Like you look at the years when Texas had elite secondaries, and those are the years that everybody remembers as being the best years. You got at corner now, Bo Masco is very, very good. Wish that we had seen him against Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. That would have been a little more of a sure thing. But I've seen enough to say this guy is a very, very good player, potentially your ace. Then you have Cade Phillips, 5-star. And this is what it looks like when you have a 5-star corner and he actually is a legit elite player, is they flash immediately as a freshman and they are good immediately. And then generally, like by the time they're a sophomore, they're like already one of the best players in the country. Texas has had a couple 5-star cornerbacks where you're just waiting and you're waiting. If they're not really good as a freshman or a sophomore as a 5-star at that position, that's probably not going to happen, right? But Cade Phillips has already shown a ton. So that's 2 guys already that are probably both going to be very good, and potentially either of them could be like NFL draft elite, right? Now you still have Wardell Mack and Warren Roberson and Grayson Littleton as depth and to play nickel. So in terms of having like 3 guys on the field at all times that can turn and run with people, you're set. You're great. You're in amazing shape. And then the other step is you want to have the veteran safeties that know what they're doing and can move around and be chess pieces every week. And for that, you generally want veteran know-how over elite talent.
Yeah, it's a reps position, as we say.
It's a reps position. Well, they got Jelani McDonald to come back and not go into the draft. So that's terrific. Okay, and then you just need one other guy, and then they convinced Derek Williams not to enter the portal. So now you have Derek Williams. He's played a lot of football. Potentially the most elite athlete of all the safeties Texas has had in the last several years, if he could put it together and get healthy, which is not crazy considering that he's going to finally be his 2nd year removed from an ACL. Even if he's only as athletic as we saw last year, him in another year, and then with like Gideon, right? Gideon's I don't know if that's officially confirmed or not. Gideon and Will Muschamp guiding him is going to be very promising. They're both going to be like McDonald will be a 4th-year player, right? And Derek Williams will, I think, also be a 4th-year player. That's when things really start to come together for safety.
Yeah.
We've got 2 legitimate candidates for ace corner. You have a depth of guys that can turn and run and play man coverage. You've got 2 veteran safeties, and then you've got other guys behind
Who are
you.
Athletes, by the way, on top
Who
of
are athletes, but
yeah.
That's just a bonus.
Right. That's a cherry on top.
These are all the pieces. Like they are in amazing shape, and people are just totally sleeping on it because everybody's fixated on why don't we have any offensive linemen yet? Why are we missing on all our running backs? When is Cam Coleman going to commit? Oh my God, what if he doesn't commit to Texas? And everybody's just totally missing out that they are building a juggernaut in the defensive secondary. People are like, Ian, don't get ahead of your horses. I'm good on this one.
Ian's has been properly placed on his horses with the secondary for the past several years. You called the Jahdae Barron secondary as being good. You said last year was not going to be good. So I give Ian the benefit of the doubt when it comes to secondaries. Plus, just the amount of articles this man has written on what you need at secondary to be good. I take Ian's word on this one. Not a hot take.
I'm getting very strong 2024 feel from the secondary. Cool. That one, the big thing was that they moved Jahdae Barron to corner, and they had Gilbo emerge at nickel, and then they got Makuba in the portal, and I watched him, and I was like, They have all these guys that can actually cover. They have like 4. You need 3 out of 5, and they have 4 out of 5. So this is going to be a very, very good unit, and people are sleeping on it. And sure enough,
What about
he
linebacker?
didn't have like a huge thumping. Like people think of safety, and they're like, you have a really good secondary, really good safeties when you have like a huge headhunter, and that's just not really how it works anymore.
No, experience is number one, and then being able to cover is number 2 1. All right, linebacker. Ty Anthony Smith has so if you watch all 22, Ty Anthony Smith misses a few tackles and kind of gets out gapped. We talked about it on defensive film study you'll see coming out, but his playmaking outshined that with his interceptions, the big chase down TFL, all of that stuff. So a couple of the little things were off. That'll come with more reps and more coaching. He's still not, been a huge starter. He's kind of became startery. But Ty Anthony Smith, it'll be a nice piece. What do you think about him at linebacker? And then Big Bo with the sack. And then what do we need in the portal?
Ty Anthony Smith is only just now going to be a junior.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really expect these guys to really put it together at safety and linebacker until like the 3rd and 4th year. So Ty Anthony Smith, great. Profiles very well to this defense. I loved that play where he met the Cusco, Michigan's running back.
Yeah.
Like met him right before the first down marker and like put him on his back.
Yep.
He has some power generation that is pretty special. They have to get 2 more guys, I would say. Spence was decent in the bowl game without like super close rewatch. Barnes is clearly athletic. I don't know if he knows what he's doing yet. I haven't really rewatched for that. I would say you need 2 guys, and Uluave is amazing.
Yeah, that
so if they get that guy, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But they just need to get good, reliable guys inside. Allegro is fine. Might be better than fine, but this is not. I don't think this is going to be hard.
Nice. Let's get him. Yeah, that Cal linebacker is something else, man. If we can land him, that'd be huge. We'll see.
He's awesome.
He's super awesome. When I watched his tape, I was like, oh, he's what you want to see up there.
It's the same thing at safety as safety, though. Whoever they get is going to end up making a gazillion tackles because they're playing behind an awesome line, and the ball is going to be funneled to them all the time. You want them to be as good as possible, but above all else, you just want them to be veterans that are in the right spots.
Yeah.
And then the plays will come to them, and they'll make the plays.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, everyone keeps saying it's going to be easier because we only need inside O-line. Where are they? That's the issue. I'm not even trying to hook you onto the site. Joe dropped a piece this morning with a few more inside offensive line targets. So if you go to Inside Texas, I would tell you right now, I just don't remember them off the top of my head, but there's expanded targets even beyond the Michigan guys now. So you can go check that out.
It's the easiest thing in the world. They could get somebody from the G5 and be great.
Yeah.
It'd be good if they added one guy that's like really a mauler and awesome. Like Emmanuel Pregnon for Oregon this year has been he's been awesome. If you get a guy like that and to replace DJ Campbell, because DJ Campbell gave Texas a lot of their push last year. So if they can get one guy at least at guard that gives them some real push, and then the other guy that's like a plus pass protector, that's probably their ideal setup. But even getting it's not that hard.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Ian?
Somebody asked a minute ago, what if they decide we're fine at offensive line and they don't take anybody in the transfer portal?
Oh man.
Let's just get there first.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. None of the I know people are scared from last year. I still have my lack of trust there, but they are going after interior offensive linemen. They just are. But I get it. I get people's trepidation, man. I'm actually probably more leaning to y'all's side of that too. If I've been hurt before, but get to that, cross that bridge when we get there type of thing.
Wide receiver is the thing that everyone should be panicked. Maybe not really panicked because there's still a lot of time. But that's the one that I would feel trepidation about. Do you add a game-changing outside receiver to this team? If you do, everything else, you'll figure it out. They'll go to their like third or fourth option at offensive line and linebacker, and you'll be stressed about it, and then it'll turn out it's totally fine because the passing game and the secondary and the defensive line are all dominant. That's not where you should worry.
Well, even think about this. Say nothing changed last year. Say it's the offensive line that we got at the end of the year, the final rotation where it stopped being 6 sacks a game. Say that remained constant, okay? But you did have a number one receiver, and you just had a back with some explosive ability. That season would have looked a lot different with the same exact offensive line and all of their issues, because Arch can avoid sacks. We'll see that in the deep dive. The number one would have helped. We've done solo videos on what an outside receiver does. And the gaps are still there 3, 4, 5 times a game for an explosive run. We just didn't have backs that were explosive. So even if everything stayed the same and you just changed those pieces, the season would have looked better. But we're not going to stay the same. We're going to try to improve that plus those other pieces. So if that helps you sleep a little bit better at night, because I've clearly thought through this prior on how that would change things. So that's cool.
They also, the 16th is the last day to enter the portal, right?
I don't know if it's this. When does school start? The 12th? It's like it's like a week after school starts. That's all I think of it.
You can still add players after that as long as they're already in the portal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but the difference is too, it's like, I get it. Like there's no spring portal. So it's like you do got to get it very right early.
Also, Texas in the transfer portal the last couple of years has been really, really good. Their evaluations in the transfer portal they've gone surprisingly well, right?
Yeah, the problem last year was a lack of taking guys in the portal, not like busting on who they did take.
And a lot of that was they figured they'd be fine on the interior offensive line. Maybe they were a little more laissez-faire like me, where it's like, we just need guys that can get in the way and it'll be fine. And then nobody could get in the way. And it's like, oh God, we're right.
Yeah.
The thing that was big last year was Sark was like, I might as well go to the co-op to try to find a tackle. Like they're not there. But this year, they have both their tackles back. They have all their defensive tackles back. They're in amazing shape relative to last year. The sheer volume of things that they need to add is very daunting, but they already got the corner. If they get the deep threat receiver, they're good. Everything else will come together.
Good stuff. All right, chat. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Ian, thank you for your knowledge. We appreciate it. This was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Make sure to tune in for the rest of the shows we got coming at you today. Later, y'all.